The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's visit to the JCB factory in Gujarat just a day after bulldozers razed homes, carts and shops in Jahangirpuri has landed him in trouble back home. Two women MPs in the UK Parliament have questioned his visit and also asked if he did actually bring up the issue of communal clashes and human rights violations with Prime Minister Modi. Speaking in UK's House of Commons, Labour MP from Nottingham East, Nadia Whittome, questioned if Prime Minister Boris Johnson's recent visit to India had helped legitimize the demolitions that were carried out by the BJP-led administration in various states. Let's listen in to what she said.
We know that during the Prime Minister's visit he was photographed leaning out of a digger in a JCB factory, and just days before the BJP used JCB diggers to bulldoze Muslim shops and homes and the gate of a mosque in New Delhi. Local governments in a number of other Indian states have also carried out similar demolitions. So I ask again, did the Prime Minister raise this with Modi? If not, why not? And does the Minister accept that the Prime Minister's visit to India has helped to legitimise the actions of Modi's far-right government?
We condemn any instance of discrimination. Thank you.
And joining us on NDTV tonight, we have Labour MP Nadia Whittome. She's also UK's youngest Member of Parliament. Thanks very much for joining us. We also have Ranbir Singh Pathania, spokesperson of the BJP. Nadia, your comments about the UK Prime Minister's visit to the JCB factory or the bulldozer factory just a day after bulldozers ran over homes, shops, carts in Jahangirpuri, is extremely interesting. Why did it trouble you so much?
Well, Boris Johnson was supposed to come to Parliament to answer an urgent question about his visit to India, but he didn't bother turning up and, as you can see in that clip, instead sent a junior minister in his place. Before his visit, he equivocated on whether he would be holding Prime Minister Modi to account. So he needed to come to Parliament and answer serious questions, like why did he pose in a JCB digger like some sort of BJP commercial when just days before the BJP used those very same diggers to demolish Muslim shops and homes and the gates of a mosque in New Delhi. Did he raise these demolitions with Modi? And also the fact that this is policy in Madhya Pradesh, in Uttar Pradesh, in Gujarat. Did he raise freedom of the press? Did he raise anti-Muslim mobs, human rights violations and protections for minorities? And will these be conditions of any trade deal? We didn't get any answers.
What would you say to those, Nadia, who say that, the JCB is the largest manufacturer of earth movers and excavators? It happens to be a very key infrastructure company in Gujarat where the UK Prime Minister happened to be. Therefore, there's nothing wrong with the visit, even though, his visit to the JCB factory was looked at with a lot of irony here in India as well.
You could, at a stretch, say that perhaps the Prime Minister wasn't aware of the demolitions that took place just days previously, and perhaps it was a huge PR disaster, in which case he should admit to that and apologise and commit to raising it with Prime Minister Modi. But what he must have known is that this was already government policy in a number of states. So in any case, he should have raised it and shouldn't have been going to that factory. The fact is, this is a grave human rights violation. I agree with Amnesty International India and with the decision of the Supreme Court. Not only that, but this undermines the rule of law. It's happening to people who have only been accused of crimes, often on malicious or false grounds. And prominent BJP figures have hinted very openly that Muslims are the targets of these demolitions. And we mustn't also forget that this is one in just a long line of anti-minority policies from the BJP, from banning headscarves in schools to banning selling meat at the side of roads, state-sanctioned street violence.
So you're saying in a certain sense that the UK Prime Minister being at the JCB factory in Gujarat just a day after what happened in Jahangirpuri has in a certain sense legitimized what happened instead of him coming out and objecting to it. Ranveer Singh Patania, how do you look at this discourse? I mean, there is a debate in the UK Parliament today, and while of course they are questioning their Prime Minister on whether he raised these issues with Prime Minister Modi or not, it surely does send out a very strong message to India too, doesn't it?
Well, I think we've got to...
I want to get the BJP spokesperson to respond to this, Nadia. Just a moment.
With due respect to Nadia on board, madam, little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And once you know button part, you understand button part, and you speak button part. First of all, it's not a case that the government of Uttar Pradesh, as you are saying, there is no demolition reported to Uttar Pradesh. You are saying the government in Gujarat, no demolition, such demolition reported to Gujarat. Demolitions have been reported once in Madhya Pradesh and then in Jahangirpuri, in the heart of the country, that is the national capital, New Delhi. And that's not the case that only the shops or establishments pertaining to Muslims have been demolished. That's not at all the case. We are facing a particular scourge herein, and in the entire country, there has been a drive to free public lands from illegal encroachments. What was the ultimate genesis? Let me start with Jahangirpuri. One, Mr. Ansarul Sheikh, who has a flurry of cases behind him. That's a separate case. He's a Hindu or a Muslim. One is a Hindu. He's an illegal arms supplier. And one is Mr. Ansarul Sheikh. He has a flurry of cases against me, against himself, sorry.
Mr. Patania, with due respect to the argument that you're making, I think the question that I'm trying to ask you is a larger question on the, do we have a perception problem? Because this appears to be, Labour MPs taking on their Prime Minister, questioning him for, going to a JCB factory, in a certain sense, legitimizing the violence against minorities in India. The issue that is being raised here looks awfully bad for India as well, doesn't it?
See, Rishika, I'm simply saying this is not at all a case of violence or demolitions against minorities. This is a very, very simple case that the governments are acting against illegal encroachers, those who have illegally encroached the lands. In Jammu and Kashmir, the state where from I hail from, 6,000 acres of land has been freed from illegal encroachment. That's not the case that only Muslims have been evicted or only Hindus have been evicted. With due respect to Madam Nadia.
But that surely appears to be the perception, doesn't it? That's the whole point I'm making. Yes. You can defend it here on the broadcast, but that is the perception, isn't it? That's the point I'm making.
You see,
I mean, it's verifiably and demonstrably
let
true.
Nadia come in. Let Nadia come in.
Yes, please.
It's verifiably and demonstrably true that these demolitions have taken place. And all of us watching this know that unauthorised construction is the norm in India, and I think it's taking viewers and taking members of the public, both in India and the UK, for fools to pretend that what's happening isn't happening.
Nadia, Prime Minister Boris Johnson's pictures on the bulldozer just a day after what happened in Jahangirpuri, like I said, was looked at with a great sense of irony here in India as well, with many questioning, even in the international media, on whether, this is really tone deaf of him to have done that. But many would also argue that, these plans are made well in advance. This visit must have been scheduled way before there was a call for any kind of a demolition drive in Jahangirpuri. What would be your response to that?
Well, I'm certainly not on here to defend Boris Johnson, and what I would say is that we've
I'm just asking you for your response to those who would say that this was obviously pre-planned and not a reaction to what happened.
It may not have been a reaction to what happened, and I sincerely hope it wasn't, because if it is, then that's extremely serious. But in any case, it legitimises and enables what the BJP government is doing in India. But I think we also have to look at the reasons why our Prime Minister has gone on this visit at all. Of course, to secure a trade deal, but also our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, broke the law, and in this country by breaking lockdown laws.
I have to say that I have to say that while you think that what Boris Johnson did looked very bad, coming in a day after what happened in Jahangirpuri, it is equally true that this discourse in your parliament makes us look equally bad, and several questions there that need to be answered as well. I'm afraid that's all the time we have. Nadia and Ranbir Singh Patania, thank you both very much for joining us on NDTV.